hotel room blocks. Really exciting logistical question.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like right up there with choosing your photographer.
Pretty much.
It's pretty much the same, right? Or the thing for me. It's a super important question because on average, you're gonna have about 125-ish or so, some I'd guess. They have to sleep somewhere, presumably.
Right.
So it's something that definitely you have to take care of and you have to think about. And I think we have some good stuff here today to share. So first, what are the benefits of having room blocks in general, rather than just letting your guests, figure it out?
So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits. First and foremost is that you've really thought about the guest experience. So it's just a nice thing to do for your guests, especially if you have a large group of out-of-town guests. It makes it a little bit easier. They're not sure, maybe they're not familiar with the city you're getting married in. So it just gives them a little bit of guidance. And whether they book in your block or not, it just is nice for them to know that you've thought about that. It also can be a great benefit because you can typically get a lower price or maybe some additional benefits. Maybe they're willing to throw in complimentary parking or complimentary Wi-Fi, so they can kind of offer you additional benefits because you're a larger group as well. So that's another benefit to your guests as well. So that's a nice thing to think about and another reason to do it.
Yeah, I know we attended a wedding this fall in New York, which can be a costly place.
Yeah.
And our rates were almost half what they would have gone if we had gone at it alone. So I think, absolutely, that's a huge benefit.
Right, and it's just nice for your guests to know that they can easily call. There's been rooms reserved for them that they can book. It's not, if it's a crazy busy weekend or something like that in your city, maybe they wouldn't know that. And so if they wait last minute and there's no rooms left, that's obviously just going to become another hassle. Yeah, definitely. But that just becomes another hassle. So it's just a really easy way for them to know, okay, I have a set block of rooms. I can reserve these rooms. Everyone, all my friends and family that I know for this wedding are going to be there. So that's kind of the benefit to you, is that everybody's centrally located. So if you're offering transportation,
right.
If you're doing welcome bags, you have, 2-3 locations to go to, as opposed to trying to figure out, where everybody's staying. And, you'll be working with the hotel coordinator as well, and they can provide you with a list of who's staying there, and so that helps with transportation count. So it just makes it easier all around for everyone logistically.
And you can sometimes get a better rate on the venue as well if it happens to be the same one.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
If you're getting married in a hotel, then oftentimes the hotel block can be an added benefit, especially, and it's so easy then at that point because you're staying there, partying there.
Yeah. Just go right upstairs.
Yeah, it makes it just a whole lot easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what are some things that you should consider when you're looking for your hotel room block?
So the first thing is you'll want to think about where your venue is, of course, right? You want your hotel block to be very centrally located to your reception venue and or ceremony venue so that it's easy. You also want to think location-wise, if you have a lot of people coming in from the airport, how are they going to get there? So that could be a question, whether it's centrally located near the airport or does the hotel offer some kind of transportation? Do you anticipate your guests renting cars, or is it easy access to Uber? So those are things to think about location-wise. And then you'll want to reach out and think about pricing. So typically I would recommend that you block hotels at 2 to 3 hotel options. And so you'd want to think about price options. Maybe you have something on the higher end and a lower end, and then maybe a middle option. So you want to have something that will appeal to all of your guests, no matter what their budget is.
Sure.
Give them all an option. So I'd look at that, and then look at the type of hotel. Some people are Marriott people, some people are Hilton. Maybe you want to offer a boutique option. So you want to keep that in mind too. If you know that your family has been collecting Marriott points for their whole lives, then you're definitely going to want to make sure that you block at a Marriott property.
Right.
So those are things to think about too along the way.
Okay, perfect. And then what hotels or what are hotels willing to offer sometimes with room blocks?
So it just depends, and I think that's a question to ask the coordinators. First and foremost is the price, right? What kind of rate can they offer for you? And then can they offer any kind of complimentary things on top of that? Is it Wi-Fi? Is it breakfast? Is it a discounted rate on parking? What are the kind of little benefits that you can give to your block? Another good question to ask is if you're planning to do welcome bags, is there a fee to deliver those welcome bags? So if there is that something that's negotiated? If you hit a certain number of rooms, can you get that price lower, or can that be complimentary? So ask all those questions up front. It never hurts to ask and see what your options are.
Sure, absolutely. There is a lot to consider there.
Yeah.
And welcome bags are always fun too. It's probably another podcast, but
they're so fun. And it can be so simple, or it can be so over the top, but it's another way to kind of think about that guest experience and really make your guests know that they're welcome literally from the moment they check into their hotel, that you're going to be really taking care of them for the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I even know with our wedding, like I enjoyed our welcome bag.
I know. We had our welcome bag like after our wedding.
Right.
All the pickles.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So as far as, options, I mean, what are your hotel block options?
So as far as pricing goes?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I think that you kind of have two major options. You can book with a courtesy block, or you can book with an attrition rate. So the first one is that courtesy block, and that one is going to be something that does not have a financial component for you.
Sure.
So your rate might not be as good as it would with the other option, but it'll still be a discounted rate. And you're gonna typically have a cutoff date, which is about a month out. So all of your guests will have to book by that month out. Otherwise, any rooms that were in your block will be released back to the general public for sale. So it gives you that option, and that's a great option if you're not sure how many of your guests are gonna book there. And you don't want to be financially responsible for a certain number of rooms. So you just don't feel really, really confident that all those rooms are going to book. You're also going to not get as many rooms in your block. So typically it's going to be 5, maybe 10 rooms in that block. And then as you book that block, if space allows at the hotel, they will typically work with you to add more rooms to your block. So those are kind of the cons of that, is that you won't have as many rooms to offer.
Got it.
With the attrition rate, though, you're going to be financially responsible for a certain percentage. So if you block at 20 rooms, you might have 80-90% attrition. So you will have to, I'm not good at math, so you'll have to come up with a number for that, but you'll have to book a certain number of rooms, otherwise you'll have to pay that difference.
Gotcha.
So you can get a larger block, but you're on the hook for that money. So you better make sure.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, you better make sure that your guests book there. So you really want to encourage them. If you think you're going to go that way, definitely talk to your guests, your close friends and family. Make sure that everyone's planning to book and at that rate, and everyone feels confident with it, so that you can make sure you're gonna hit that number. Yeah.
So then, which leads to the next question is, like, how do you know which one's right for you?
I think it just depends on your guest count and who your guests are. Do you feel like they're gonna try to get a AAA rate, or they're gonna want to book their own hotel? Then you're probably gonna want to go with the courtesy block. If you feel like everybody's gonna want to be at the same hotel, maybe your reception's happening there, so definitely everyone's gonna stay there, and you need a lot more rooms than they're willing to offer for you, then the attrition rate might be the better fit for you.
Okay. And you sort of related to that as well, if you're trying to come up with, and I'm sure the hotel coordinators will help you get there, but how do you know how many rooms to block? I mean, if you have 120 guests, how do you kind of arrive at that number?
So you would want to look at your guest count. I mean, you can assume probably 2 people per room generally. So that helps to kind of, you cut that number in half to 60 people, and then look at how many of those people are local versus how many are coming in from out of state. And then, how many of them you anticipate staying at that particular hotel. So if the rate, is a middle of the road rate, or if it's a high end rate, maybe, all of your friends aren't going to want to pay that. So you can kind of look at those options, and definitely talk to your close friends and family. Are they planning to stay at a hotel, or are they going to rent an Airbnb? What are those things that they're looking at, so that you can get kind of a general count of how many rooms you think they'll need.
Okay, perfect. And then how do you go about actually booking the room, or the room block rather?
So you're gonna reach out to the hotel and talk with the coordinator, kind of get those options. What are your, do they offer a courtesy block? Do they offer, what are your room options? And then from there, you'll talk to them, and then you'll sign a contract. And so then from there, they'll help you kind of guide you through the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm actually going to throw you for a little loop here.
Okay.
What do you do? So obviously, in Charlotte, where we're based, there's a lot of options. What if you're somewhere further out? What if you're somewhere that's a little bit more rural and there's not a lot of options? What have you seen couples do in the past? How do you make sure your guests have a place to stay if there's not a lot of options?
Yeah, I mean, if there's not a lot of options, you definitely want to make sure you block a set of hotel rooms for your guests.
Man, way in advance.
Way in advance. You want to encourage people to set, maybe if to save the date, make sure to say something like, we encourage you to book your room early. So those are just kind of things you'll want to make sure you kind of get that word out if there aren't a lot of options to make sure that they do have a place to stay. And then, a lot of times, even here in Charlotte, if our weddings are in the outskirts of Charlotte, you might block hotel blocks out there, but then you might also block something in the city center. That way, if you have people who are not local, maybe they want to see downtown and be, more centrally located. So that could be an option too, is something that's a little further travel, but closer to a city, and still doable. But you definitely want to share that information with your guests. Hey, this is a 30-minute drive, whereas this one's a 5-minute drive kind of thing.
Right, that makes sense, because especially when you think about guest experience, and the guests generally aren't at the reception the entire time of their weekends, right? So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, think about their whole experience.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And as we always end these, what do you recommend for our couples for their next steps as they start to explore booking room blocks?
So I would think about what are the types of hotels you want to book at. I would reach out to those hotels and get initial rates, find out what types of room blocks they offer for you, and then review those contracts and make a decision. Like I said, you want to book between 2 to 3 options. More than 3 just gets way overwhelming, and then one option may not give you enough price options, unless you're in a rural area where there aren't as many options, and then of course one is a nice thing. But you might want to see with only one block, making sure that you get more rooms. So those are kind of going to be those next steps for you.